Hello everyone, I hope you guys are having a great day today. I just wanted to make a quick video discussing the most popular Horadric cube recipes. These are the ones that I try to memorize myself, and these are the ones that I use the most often throughout my ladder resets or new characters on Diablo 2. There are so many recipes in this game, it's going to be near impossible to remember them all. So if you want to look over what recipes you want to remember and you want to see all of them, I will have a link to a website in the description below, the Ariat Summit. You can see all of the Horadric cube recipes there. However, if you are only interested in the main recipes, then I recommend just checking out either my video description, which I will have each recipe that I use there, and also just watch this video and you'll see exactly what recipes I use, and I kind of explain when you want to do it, etc, etc. So let's get straight into it here with the most common, most important cube recipes that I recommend out of all of them, and let's get to it. So the first thing that comes to mind here is making rune words as quick as possible. So one way you might need to use a recipe is to socket an item, more specifically a normal quality item. That's basically the white letters, no sockets on them already, no set items, no unique items. This has to be a normal quality item here. So the first one here is if you're looking for a 3-socketed armor or a 4-socketed armor or whatever it is, you might want to pick up an item of that type with no sockets, and then you can socket them. So the first one here we have is an armor. Let's say you find a very high defense armor in hell mode and it has no sockets, and you really want a high defense treachery for your mercenary, or you want a high defense enigma for yourself or something. Well, one way you can speed up finding your base here, your base armor, is by taking a perfect topaz, Thal rune, and Tal rune with that normal quality armor, and then use it to give it random sockets. Now this, I believe if I remember correctly, this works into 1 to 6 sockets, and it only goes up to based on what that armor is. So in the case here, I have a breastplate, which is from normal act 2. So I believe this only goes up to 2 sockets, so you cannot get higher than that. So you want to make sure you have an armor from the higher end of the game if you want to get as many sockets as possible. So let's say, for example, this was a Great Hauberk, which is the elite version of a breastplate. That can get 4 sockets. So when you go to use the recipe on this, what would happen is it would roll between 1 to 6. If it rolls a 6, 5, or 4, it will be 4 sockets. If it rolls a 3, it becomes 3 sockets, and so on. So it's completely random how many sockets you get, so you are kind of gambling on what kind of armor you're going to get in terms of sockets, and that works for the next recipe here as well, the weapons. So in the case here, this is for like a barbarian, a zeal paladin. If you find some other kind of weapon you really want to socket. So let's say right now I'm trying to make a grief phase blade for my barbarian or my zeal paladin. You need to find a phase blade with no sockets, and this can get up to 6 sockets. So we got to pray that it doesn't get 6, but actually 5 sockets. If it gets 4 sockets, we can make something like a Lawbringer or a Crescent Moon. If we get 6 sockets, we can make a Last Wish. So again, the sockets are kind of random, but if you want to gamble on trying to get that 5-socket phase blade or whatever socketed weapon you're trying to get as quick as possible, perfect amethyst, Amn, and Ral, and that will give you randomly. Unfortunately here we got a 3-socket, which is not very useful, so we're just going to throw that there and sell it later. Now, shields. This one usually works for only 2 instances. I would say that it's worth doing. The first one is the Monarch, of course. Everyone wants to make a Spirit Monarch for their spellcasters, whether it's a Sorceress, Elemental Druid, etc. If you find a Monarch with no sockets and you want a Spirit Monarch as quick as possible, take a perfect Ruby, Amn, and Tal rune and socket it, and look at that. Finally it pays off. We get a 4-socket Monarch here, so that's nice and done here. I'm playing on hardcore though, so I prefer my Storm Shield, but if this was softcore, I would be pretty happy about this 4-socket Monarch. You can also do this with Paladin Shields. If you find a high resistance Paladin Shield, you can use the socket recipe to give it 4 sockets, and then you'll have a really nice Paladin Spirit Shield. But again, it depends on what you want to look for and how quickly you want to find that particular base item. You don't have to use these recipes if you don't want to. They are just there if you need to quickly make a Spirit Monarch or a Grief or something like that. Now for the next section here, we have upgrading uniques. So some uniques are absolutely worth upgrading, and I'm going to show you guys some good examples of what I would upgrade and what I think most players upgrade eventually. So the first one here is upgrading normal unique weapons. So I kind of mentioned this with the breastplate, right? So with the breastplate, you have the level 1 breastplate, which is the breastplate. The level 2 is the cuirass, and the level 3 is the Great Hauberk. So there's 3 tiers or 3 levels to each armor and weapon. You guys are familiar with crystal swords, right? Crystal swords are level 1. Phase blades here are level 3, aka elite weapons. So with a normal weapon, level 1 basically, you need a normal type unique weapon here, and this can be a Bone Snap or any other unique weapon that you find that's normal quality. And then you take a Ral, Sol, and a Perfect Emerald. You upgrade it, and it goes to the level 2 type, which is the War Club. The War Club is the next upgrade from the Maul, and then I forget what the next one is. I believe it's an Ogre Maul. So basically, if you want to upgrade a really good weapon, this is mostly for melee characters. It doesn't really make sense to do this for like a Sorceress or a Hammerden, but if you are using melee weapons to deal damage, upgrading a weapon is very, very valuable. So now when I go and make my Barbarian, I have an amazing Bone Snap Maul here, or War Club Bone Snap, which does almost double the damage and only went up like 6 levels. So incredible. The only downside, of course, is that strength requirement, but amazing damage overall. Now, the next one, we have armors here. Normal quality armors. Tal, Shael, and Perfect Diamond here. This is what you need for your armors. So if you want to do like a, I don't know, like a gray form, which is a normal quilted armor, there's any kind of normal quality armor you can do here. So chance guards, I could do this as well. Normal quality gloves. We don't have a normal quality belt. It's a exceptional belt here, so we can't do this recipe on this. But if we have any kind of normal quality unique armor type, then you can actually do this. I'm pretty sure shields don't work on this, but I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I've ever done a shield. I will edit that into the video here if it works on shields. But for now, we're testing out armor here. One of the most important ones to upgrade in terms of armor is the gold wrap. And the reason why is everyone loves the gold wrap for magic find and extra gold find on most of their characters, whether it's a sorceress, a barbarian. And the downside to the gold wrap is it only gives you 3 belt layers here, whatever you want to call them. The belt layers here, you can only get 3. So if you want the extra layer, you will have to upgrade your gold wrap. So Shael, Tal, Perfect Diamond, and it will upgrade it to the next armor type, just like the weapon I showed. So now we have 4 tiers here. So a really great way to actually make your gold wrap much more valuable is to upgrade it. Just keep in mind it does take 88 strength, so you might not have that much unless you're building towards like a Spirit Monarch already, which obviously I have for my Storm Shield, which means I can now use this. So that's the normal armor. If you have any out there, normal gloves like Chance Guards, Mage Fist, etc. For the weapons here, we have the next level here. So as I mentioned, Maul to War Club. Here we have an exceptional weapon here. So the War Club is now exceptional. So you can actually use this recipe with this Bone Snap now to turn it into an Ogre Maul, which I do not recommend. But now you can do that with this recipe to the level 2 Bone Snap. Now with the Rib Cracker, this is the most, at least to me, one of the most important weapon upgrades you can do for a lot of characters, whether it's Whirlwind Barbarian, Shapeshifting Druid. So I'm going to show you guys this one, just how big of a deal this exceptional weapon upgrade recipe is. So let's take a look here. 166 damage, right, on this Rib Cracker. Now, Lum, Pul, Perfect Emerald, you upgrade it, and it turns into the elite version of the staff, and it just went to 483. Absolutely disgusting amount of damage when you upgrade it here. So the Rib Cracker is my most favorite when it comes to upgrading weapons here. When I go and make my Whirlwind Barb, I will have a Bone Snap Maul into a Rib Cracker Stalagmite. So when I go and make my Barbarian now, I will have the Bone Snap War Club into the Rib Cracker Stalagmite. This is absolutely amazing. The only downside is the level requirement goes up big time. So if you want to upgrade your Rib Cracker and you have a Barbarian or Shapeshifter planned, you might not want to upgrade it right away since it's only level 31. And then when you hit that level 56, then you can upgrade it. So just keep in mind the stat requirements as well as the level requirements when you decide to upgrade something. And you can do this with every exceptional, unique weapon out there. The Rib Cracker is just a really good example I'm showing off here. So absolutely amazing. If you find something great out there and you want to take it into Helm mode, feel free to upgrade that and you'll have a much better weapon. Now for the armor here, we have the exceptional armor into the elite armor here, which is just like that Rib Cracker. So the Skin of the Viper Magi is the most important or most popular choice for this because it's a really, really good armor and the amount of defense it gets goes up big time. So you guys can see here, 279 defense with a Perfect Diamond, Lem, and Co. We're going to upgrade it from a Serpent Skin armor to a Worm Hide. And upgrading here, it just went from 279 to 1029, which is absolutely amazing defense here, which my Sorceress was using earlier. But of course, I took it off to show you guys this example. So beautiful armor there. Upgrading is so useful. I need to socket that later. So we have ourselves the socketed armor, the socketed weapons, the socketed shields, upgrading a unique normal armor, upgrading an exceptional armor, and upgrading a unique normal weapon and the exceptional weapon. So that's basically upgrading uniques there. Feel free to choose on what you want to upgrade. Just again, be careful of those stat and level requirements when you decide to do that. The Viper is level 29, I believe, or 27 when it's not upgraded, and now it's level 57. So really keep that in mind. For the next one here, we have a very simple one. If you find a lot of rejuvenation potions, throw 3 of them in, cube it into a full rejuvenation. This is very useful on hardcore. Very simple recipe if you need your full rejuvenations there going into hell mode. The next one here we have is an early on recipe here. This one is really good if you're looking to make gold early on. I recommend this in a lot of my leveling guides. Pick up a class item, an item that gives class skills all the time. So for example, Scepters here, this will give you Sacrifice, Holy Fire, other Paladin skills. When it has a Paladin skills, it sells for a lot of gold to the vendor, so you will want to sell it. But if you find a Scepter like this one here, where there are no class skills, what that means is it's not going to sell for a lot. But what you can do is take 3 chipped gems that you found in, say, Normal Act 1, Normal Act 2, cube it, and it will completely re-roll the stats on it. And if you're lucky, it will get class skills on it. And this will now suddenly make it sell for a lot of gold. Now, unfortunately, we did not get any class skills. We got a random charge effect, so it does not sell for a lot. But if you get something like 1 to Might, 1 to Holy Fire, or something like that, it's now going to sell for like 15,000 instead of 1,600. So if you want to make a lot of quick gold in the first few acts of your new character, save up your chipped gems and cube up scepters, staves, and wands. If you don't have any to cube up, you can also always go to Akara in normal mode, and you can actually pick up a random staff here. So let's find a cheap one here. So unfortunately, I am in hell mode, so most of them are expensive, but here's an example. You can buy this one for 1,300, and then you can cube it up until you get one with class skills, and then now you just sold it for like 20,000 or whatever, right? So it's a great way to make gold early on in the first few acts of your fresh character. I guess you could do this right now as well, like I just did on a high level, but to me it's a lot of work to carry all those chipped gems, so I don't really find it worth it. It's super easy to find gold, but if you want to get all that gold, whether it's early on or later on a high level character, save those chipped gems and re-roll those class items. Alright, for the next one here, we have 3 gems here. So, gems, you cannot get perfect gems from the ground. Monsters do not drop them. The highest that monsters can drop in hell mode is flawless gems. So if you take 3 of the same type and the same level, so flawless sapphire, flawless sapphire, flawless sapphire, you can cube it into a perfect sapphire. You can do this with, say, amethyst as well. They have to be the same type and the same level. If you have a flawed amethyst here or a chipped amethyst, it's not going to work. They have to be the same type. So there we go, perfect amethyst. And you want to do this because there's more recipes that are used, as I showed you guys with upgrading the armor, using these socket recipes. They require perfect gems. So remember, you can build up your gems by upgrading 3 at a time to eventually get that perfect gem. Next, we have Ort runes. So if you have a low-level rune, I believe this goes up to a Thal rune. You take 3 of the same rune and cube, and it goes up to the next one. So if you need like a Thal rune, but you have a lot of Ort runes, take 3 and cube it, and it will give you the next rune above it. Now, there is one thing you need to note here, is that eventually, I believe it's after Thal rune, some of those rune recipes will start requiring gems. So for example, when I made my Heart of the Oak here, I needed a Vex rune to make this, but I found 2 Gull runes. So what I had to do was take 2 Gull runes and a level 12 ruby, which I might have here in the stash. Oh, no, I don't. But you basically needed a level 12 ruby with 2 Gull runes, and that will cube into a Vex rune, which is what I did in order to make my Heart of the Oak. So you will eventually have to use some gems. You'll have to look up those recipes if you want a specific rune upgrade, but there's very rare cases where you actually want to do that. For example, you do not want to cube 2 Burr runes into a Jaw rune. That's just not worth it in my opinion. So keep that in mind, that some recipes in my opinion are definitely not worth doing. It's mostly the low level runes that you are okay with in my opinion. So going to the next recipe here, let's see, Hell with a Ral. So let's say, for example, you socket an item like, let's say you take a Ral rune and you socket it by accident into your rib cracker, or maybe you did that on purpose, but now you found a better rune like an Amn rune or a Shael rune, and you want to put a new socket item in there like a Jewel. Well, you can remove stuff in the sockets. You can remove the socketed items, however, you do not get it back. So take a Hell rune and a Town Portal Scroll and use it, and it will remove the item in the socket so you can use it again, but you will not get the item back. So keep that in mind when you decide to go and use a Hell rune with a Town Portal Scroll. to clear out a socket. So again, I have over here a Shaco. If I decide to find a burr rune and I want some extra damage reduction, I can use the Hel Town Portal Scroll to take the perfect topaz out, and then reuse the socket for something else later. So that works for every item that has sockets. Hel, Town Portal Scroll, easy as that. Next, we have a charged weapon here. This one's really important because if you are like me, you love the staff with teleport charges. Now, there's one thing you need to notice here is that they will be very expensive to repair. I've used 5 charges, but it might still be expensive. So let's take a look here. So it's going to cost almost 10,000 gold just for 5 charges. And as you can guess, you go through teleports really, really quickly. Now, usually it's about 80,000 gold when you have 0 charges on it, which is very expensive. But one way you can save gold when repairing these is taking an Ort rune and any chipped gem with an Ort rune, and it will completely repair all of the charges. Now, this is only for weapons. If you want to do an armor version, let's say you found a circlet and I think an amulet with teleport charges, take a Ral with a flawed gem, and that will repair the charges on that armor. For weapons, it's Ort chipped gem. For armors, Ral flawed gem. The next one here I want to showcase, which let's just put this somewhere here, is repairing items. So let's find one with durability damage. Here we go. I believe this will work. So you take a Ral and an armor, and it will fully repair it. So just a Ral rune, nothing else. Ral rune with any armor, cube it, and it will give you full durability back. For weapons, it's an Ort rune. So let's see if I have a weapon here with damage durability. Here we go. So 32 out of 50 durability with an Ort rune, fully repaired. So it will not recharge. So keep that in mind if you're doing it for like teleport charges. It will not work. It will only repair durability, which is why you need that chipped gem. Alright, let's put these back. Alright, so now let's talk about what we can use our chipped gems for. I have 2 level 1 characters, also known as mules, full of perfect gems. If you want to use your perfect gems, the best way, in my opinion, the most efficient way to use your perfect gems is to take a grand charm and put 3 perfect gems in, and it will re-roll any magic item. So if you have like this magic scepter, where did I put it? A magic scepter, a magic staff, a magic belt, you will completely re-roll the stats of any magic item with 3 perfect gems. Wow, no way, first try, holy crap. Well, that's perfect, because that's exactly what I wanted to show you guys. So basically, 3 perfect gems with a grand charm will give you a chance to get a skiller GC just like this one. If you can get a GC with skills on them, you can trade them to people for profit, or you can use them for your own characters. In my opinion, that's the most efficient way to spend your perfect gems if you have a lot of them. Just keep in mind of one key thing. It depends on the item level of the Grand Charm. So as you can see here, it's a skill GC with no other stats on it. If you are one of those players that wants high life on the skill GC, for example, 1 combat skills for Paladin along with like 40 to life, you need to get a Grand Charm from Nilithak, Diablo, or Baal in Hell mode, because that high life stat requires a very high level Grand Charm, and the only way to get that high level Grand Charm is to get one from Nilithak, Diablo, or Baal. So if you're not too worried about getting a high life stat or another really good stat on that skill GC, just use any charm pretty much in Hell mode and you'll be fine. Like this one here, this one I forget where I found it, probably Ancient Tunnels in Hell, and you can just get a random skill GC. But if you want to get a random skill GC with high life on it, which is worth a lot of currency in game, or if you're a JSP or whatever, then you need to get that GC from that specific area I mentioned. I can't believe we got that on the first try. That's insane. Even though it's a defensive aura one, which isn't that great, still amazing. Alright, let's talk about the next one here. So crafting is the next section of cube recipes here. So blood gloves. Blood gloves are really nice because they always come with crushing blow. So if you're leveling a barbarian, you're leveling a zeal paladin, you're leveling a shapeshifter druid, you know, some kind of melee character, crushing blow is really, really vital to your damage output, especially when it gets into Hell mode and against bosses. So the best way to get that guaranteed crushing blow early on is either through a black flail, or in this case here, making blood gloves. So you need Sharkskin gloves, heavy gloves, or Vampirebone gloves. Basically the gloves that look like this. The level 1, 2, or 3 version of these gloves, you need these, a perfect ruby, a Nef rune, and any jewel. This will give you guaranteed life leech, guaranteed crushing blow, and the rest of the stats are completely random. You might get dexterity like I did here, which is actually quite nice. You might get magic find. Like overall, these are some pretty nice gloves. I think you can get some decent resistances as well. The biggest thing though is getting 20% increased attack speed. If you can get 20% increased attack speed along with the crushing blow, you will have some top tier gloves that you might be able to trade to people or even use yourself. Another stat you can also get is 3 to bow skills, 3 to martial arts, or 3 to javelin skills. I believe those all work on the crafted gloves as well, which is absolutely amazing if you can get that. So yeah, 20 attack speed with the crushing blow is like what you really want to look for, especially on like a smiter paladin going for ubers. Absolutely top tier. The next one here is similar to the gloves, so these are blood gloves. The next one we have is blood belt. So using a perfect ruby, any jewel, a tal rune, and a mithril coil, mesh belt, or belt, you can make a blood belt which always has life leech and open wounds. Again, this is really good for melee characters because open wounds prevents monsters from healing. This is especially important when you're facing against ubers like Diablo, where he heals a lot. If you're going for Annie or like Diablo clone or uber Diablo, any big bosses that heal a lot, the open wounds will stop that, which is really important. So if you need a budget smiter belt or a budget melee belt, this is really good. You can also do this for the resistances, the life. It's a great way to get a good belt early on without having to imbue a belt. Or if you do imbue a belt to get a random rare belt with good stats, but you don't get a good one, you can also craft like this and hopefully get a better one. So blood belt, blood gloves. Next one here we have a caster belt. So for spellcasters like sorceresses, hammerdins, etc., you want to hit a specific faster casting breakpoint. So for example, let's say you're at 70 with a paladin, you need 75 to hit that breakpoint. Well, crafting a caster belt will possibly get you to that 75%. So Ith rune, perfect amethyst, and any jewel with a sharkskin belt, light belt, or I believe vampire fang belt is the other one. You need this kind of belt, and this will create a caster belt, which will give you 5 to 10% faster cast. So ideally, of course, you want 10% here because most people have a specific faster cast breakpoint. For example, the hammerdin is 75, 125, so it's either on a 0 or a 5. So having a 5% or 10% ideally is what you want. Having a 6% doesn't really matter. The only exception might be like a sorceress, which is 117 for lightning, but otherwise, like, it's really just a budget belt here for the quick life, quick resistances, faster hit recovery, strength. If you're looking for a budget belt, maybe you don't have a string of ears yet, creating a caster belt will be a great way to get those extra stats so you're not using a pile of crap early on. So that's the blood belt, blood gloves, caster belt. The next one here is the caster amulet. This one is more for end game. This one isn't really for budget, but you can do it for budget if you want, and I'll get into that in a second here. So Ral, perfect amethyst, any jewel with an amulet here, and it will create a caster amulet which gives 5 to 10% faster cast. Two important things to note about the amulets. The amulet, because it's just like rings and amulets, right, how it can get 10% faster cast rate. I don't know if I have that on any rings here, but you know how rings and amulets can just randomly get 10% faster cast? You can get that on top of the caster amulet, which means you can actually get an amulet with 20% faster cast. It's the only way to get a 20% faster cast amulet, so crafting a cast amulet, it can be very worthy in terms of either using or trading, but there's another thing you need to note. That second thing you need to know is that these amulets can also get 2 to a particular class skill. So for example, you might get 2 to sorcerer skills, 20% faster cast, and then random stats like resistances and magic find. If you can get an amulet with 20% faster cast, as well as 2 to a class skill, you can sell that for quite a lot or even use it yourself. A really good example of this would be a hammerdin. Some hammerdins out there want to go for the 125% faster cast breakpoint for their hammers. One of the only ways to do that is to have a 20% faster cast amulet, and if they choose to do that, they obviously want one with 2 to paladin skills on top of that. Now, here's the thing you need to note about this. You need to be at least level 93 in order to craft an amulet with 2 to a class skill. So if you're looking for one of those top tier endgame amulets, you want to be at least level 93 to get that, and you also just want a high item level amulet if I remember correctly as well. So that's the caster amulet. You can do the GG gloves as well, like I mentioned, 20% increase attack speed for smiters. If you want to also go for Amazon gloves, like 3 to bow skills, you can do that as well. But generally the profit will come from caster amulets and rolling skill GCs. So if you're looking for 2 things to use your perfect gems for, it's caster amulets and grand charm re-rolling. That's at least my opinion. So overall, those are the cube recipes I use the most and try to memorize and remember. If you guys have any questions, or maybe I missed a recipe you think that should be remembered, leave it in the comments below. Again, if you want to remember all of these recipes, I will have them listed in the video description. So if you ever forget one, just come to the video, check the description, and I will have the recipe right there. If you want to check out all the other recipes, a link to the Ariad Summit website will be there in the video description, so you can check out all the recipes in the game. With that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you hopefully on my next one. See you guys.